we talk about economics a lot, and we've talked, the end of indifference economics paper that we did was basically about the problem of debt that we have. The first line of that in the introduction is that debt-fueled consumption is not prosperity, and it isn't. Debt is one of our addictions. The other one is immigration. Mass immigration has become an addiction to this country because we can't be bothered to train our own people, and we can't be bothered to manage labour markets because we're marinated and accustomed to this open labour market. Partly that was a consequence of being in the single market, because again, logically, if you have 400 million people and you can have Svetlana, who is excellent, why train Sally? That was the issue. But we're not in that now. We're in a situation where we can take responsibility and end this constant. It is an addiction. And like any addict, the addict needs bigger hits. So immigration, gross migration's gone up massively, 1.4 million now, probably. And net migration is at figures that are off the scale, probably 750 now, 750,000 people. This is an indicator that you have a major labour market problem. You have 5.5 million people, adults, on out of work benefits. We seem to have no plan to try and get our fellow citizens back into the workplace, and no incentive to do so. And yet we just ship in massive numbers of people. And I think the economic effects, which are the easy ones to talk about, it's much easier for me as a politician of the centre-left to talk about economics and the effect of migration economics. And it has three obvious effects. Mass migration lowers wages, disincentivises training, and takes one job for job off a domestic potential employee. And those are easy, but those aren't, in reality, it's also the cultural question, which politicians will not talk about, even those in the Conservative Party won't really face up to and address, that if you import massive numbers of people from different parts of the world, you change the complexion and nature of your own society, you change its culture. And there's an absorption rate for immigration. How quickly could you absorb, how society can absorb from people from different places? Well, it's easier to absorb 10,000 than it is 1 million, obviously. And if you're totally indifferent to this sort of thing and you don't think it matters, your society will just become more divided and more atomized and balkanized. I think that's a terrible outcome. So again, it's another thing on the cultural side the SDP has been forthright on. So we're calling for a mass immigration pause, not for 5 years, for 30 years. I think you have to have a good look at the whole society, try and find a new us, in other words. And I think if we don't do that, I'm not sure what sort of society we will be actually in by the sort of 2050s, 60s. We must do this. So it's a
full generation. Pause.
Full generation, yes. Get back to necessary migration you will have for highly skilled people that you need, marriage union and so on. But with our addiction to this drug of mass migration is terrible culturally, and it's terrible economically, and it's got to stop.